Hey, Nicole Roberts Jones here, and welcome to this episode of the Meaningful Work Podcast. A time I'm always excited to be here to help you understand how to live a life and have a career full of meaning and fulfillment. Now, this conversation today is one that I think so many people are going through, and I want you to get your pen and paper because this woman right here goes in. So let me ask you a question. Are you dealing with a challenge? Maybe it's a loss of a loved one. Maybe it's that you hate your job. Maybe it's that you keep getting overlooked for the promotions, or maybe you just going through a bad breakup. Whatever that is, I wonder if you realize that your ability to bounce back despite a challenge will make a difference in your ability to have meaningful work. Well, our guest today, Dr. Portia Lockett, is getting ready to tell you exactly how to do that. So she is an award-winning inspirational speaker, an author, a grief recovery specialist, spiritual advisor, and chaplain. And dare I say, she's my spiritual advisor. She has been featured on CNN, Natural Geographic, New York Times, Courageous Magazine, the Michigan Chronicle, Fox 2 News Detroit, and numerous podcasts. Listen, I could read for the next hour. And she's the recipient of numerous awards. A few are the Career Masters Spirit Award, Detroit's Spirit Award, Speak Life Award, and the Torch of Wisdom Local Heroes Award. Dr. Lockett is also the CEO and founder of and I forgot to ask her how to say this, so girl, if I say this wrong, please correct me, Azal Binay Lockett Foundation that helps the grieving community heal, offer them hope, and hold their hearts on their grieving journeys. So y'all, please help me welcome Dr. Portia. Hey, girl.
Hey girl, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Oh, I'm blessed just like you, Nicole. It's such a pleasure to be in your presence.
Always great to be in your presence. So this conversation is needed and necessary, especially, dare I say it, I'm gonna go in at the beginning, y'all. So as Black women, and listen, if you're not a Black woman, if you're a Black man or a man, if you're a woman of another race, don't think you're not gonna get what I'm getting ready to say. I think Black women, and I call it slave mentality, we learn to just keep it pushing, and we don't stop long enough to realize what we're going through and get tools. So tell us a little bit about, or let me start with this. Can you give us an example of your own time in your career that you had to be resilient?
Every day. I'm just going to say every day because, the intention is in my role as a spiritual advisor, as a grief recovery method specialist, as a chaplain for a local hospital. I have to be intentional about how I show up every day. So as I'm supporting individuals, from all walks of life, all levels of life, through their grieving journey, I have to make sure that my spirit is in the right place. So if I come in, with a negative spirit, or I come in with all of my issues, tearing me down, then I can't do the work that I have been purposed to do and called to do that day to help that family, to help that worker, to help the administrator, to help those people who are going through that grieving journey. And knowing that grieving is not just about the loss of a loved one or someone that you care about or a dear friend. It's the loss of period. There's 40 different ways that one can grieve. So I never know ahead of time who God is going to place on my path. But what I intend to do every day is to ask God to guide my steps so that whoever crosses my path, that I will be able to assist them and guide them on their next level of their healing journey. So I have to stay in this space of being resilient. Whatever has happened, being in a position where I can just pop back and just go to that word and take time out to meditate so I can stay in that resilient flow to be able to help others.
So good, so good. And I love that you said every day, because there are moments in every day that somebody can work on your last nerve and you got to be resilient from that, right? I remember a time, I didn't know I was going to share this story, but I remember when I had already started my business and I was working a job, and I used to call that job my investor because I realized it was investing in me being able to eat and pay my light bill and my Wi-Fi while I was building my business. But my boss used to get on my nerve. I mean, like every day, y'all, every single day. And I realize now talking to you is that I had to learn to be resilient, meaning that I had to learn to keep myself calm, to look past how much of a fool he was acting, because I needed that paycheck. Hello. And I had to really understand my why in that moment every day to get past that. And can I tell you, the cherry on top of this pie is that he got it fired. Hello. And the boss that came in said, Nicole, I know you have your own business. You just tell me how you want to work your job, girl. And it's only that only happened But that only happened because I know God
Bro.
gave me that favor because I was resilient and because I didn't give up, because I didn't cuss him out like I wanted to. If I'm gonna keep it real, y'all. Yes, I'm a Jesus girl and I
Right.
still have that feeling inside of me. So can you give us how can trying to think how to word this. When we are personally going through our own moments of
Mhm.
loss,
Mhm.
maybe somebody's lost their mind, if you lost a loved one, or you lost something in between.
Mhm.
What are some strategies that we can begin to employ to really help us get that bounce back, that resilience muscle working?
Sure. The first thing we want to do is be able to acknowledge the space that we're in, because so many times, as you said, as African American women, we're expected to put this mask on top of the mask, on top of the mask, and act like everything is just okay every day and all is well. God is good all the time and everything is good, so we go through all that, right? But when we take that mask off and just really accept the space that we're in, and accept the fact that there's no way that I can begin to heal if I don't deal with the situation that I'm dealing with. So that means I've got to take a step back. I got to take a look at the big picture, at my life, and say, for example, if I'm going through something, in a relationship, and my home life is not where I desire it to be, or I'm experiencing some emotional distress, or all sorts of things that happen in the household, but I'm expected to come in and because I've got a team that's looking at me every day, right? And so when I'm at home, I got to be able to have those crucial conversations at home, and also those crucial conversations in the workplace. Do you bring them together? Sometimes you do, and sometimes, depending on what type of team you have, determining what type of relationship that you have with those individuals at work, knowing that you can go to your boss or whoever it is that you report to if you're in a working environment and just say, hey, I've got some personal issues. I may need to take some time off so I can address those issues, so that when I come back, being fully resilient, then I'm able to accomplish all the goals that you have set before me. But if we don't take the time off, and meaning taking that time off means that, you may need to see a therapist, you may need to see a counselor, you may need to address some things that you're dealing with or have not dealt with physically, that are impacting you mentally and emotionally and financially. So all of it's connected, but you have to deal honestly with yourself and just say, okay, what do I need to do in order to get back to the me that I was? And it
Right.
means pulling back and taking that time off to help yourself deal with you so that you can be the best you.
And I love that you said you can't deal, you can't heal if you
Right?
don't deal. Let me say it one more time because I messed
Absolutely.
it up the first time. You can't heal if you don't deal. And
Mhm.
and going back to my first statement, we as Black women, that slave mentality, because I didn't finish my sentence. I got excited talking to you, right? Didn't
Mhm.
finish my sentence. Listen, I believe slave mentality said that we don't deal with things. We just keep it pushing.
Mhm.
Oh, so and so just got sold, and we gonna keep it pushing. That became, oh, I got overlooked for a promotion, or oh, my man is cheating on me. So we don't deal with it.
Mhm.
We act
Mhm.
like it's not there, and then it becomes. I hate to use this for an example, but it becomes like a cancer, and it spreads,
It's
and it gets
absolutely.
worse and worse when we don't deal
Mhm.
with it.
Mhm.
So, what are some of the things that we can do to deal with the things that we need to heal?
Okay. Well, as I mentioned before, finding a good therapist, someone that you can truly trust and who is relatable to you, because every therapist has their area of specialty, right? And so if you're going to see someone who only deals with emotional stress and relationships, but you're dealing with the loss of a loved one, they can give you some good tips, but they may not be relatable. Sometimes it takes actually 3 times sitting down with someone in order to figure out if it's a good fit. And when you fit, it's just like a good pair of shoes. Like, oh, this feels good. I can talk to this sister. I can talk to this brother about the issues that I'm dealing with this particular time. And once you start the therapy and just stick with it, don't just say, you know what, I'm only going to call this person when something is going wrong. You want to continue to have that person available to you once a month, because there's times when things just happen. Life just happens. Like right now, all the things that the individuals that are experiencing working for the federal government, people who are working for the IRS, all these things that are just surfacing now because of the times that we're living in. Guess what? These individuals are going through a grief experience that they never anticipated happening in their lives.
Yeah.
Can you imagine finding out in 2 or 3 days that you have a choice whether or not I'm going to stick around to see if I'm going to get fired, or making a decision today whether or not I'm going to retire. Wait a minute, I've got kids in school. I'm taking care of my mother. I'm taking care of my father. I'm that source of income for so many people in my family and in my circle. And so I'm about to lose my mind. But what do I do? How can I backtrack and take care of me? So that means, again, pausing, doing things, if you can, during this time, and it's hard, that bring you joy, being intentional about finding something that's going to bring you joy. So what brings you joy? So for me personally, I love sitting down and just listening to music. I love going to get massages. I am really right now enjoying sound therapy. Sound baths. It just helps me to, whatever it is that I'm going through, regardless of whether it's mental, emotional, spiritual, or physical, it just helps me to get out of that space of feeling like I'm in the midst of an anxiety attack, and I can just calm down. Finding a group of individuals who are like-minded, where you can sit around, start your own sister circle where you can just come and deal with whatever it is that you need to be healed from, but keeping it real. And having that circle where you can just be open and honest about what you're experiencing, because I guarantee you, when you have these crucial conversations with individuals that are like-minded, you're going to find that you're not alone. And once you discover that I'm not the only one going through this. I'm not the only one that's going through admitting a toxic relationship. I'm not the only one that has been through bankruptcy and a foreclosure and unemployed. I'm not the only one trying to figure out how I'm going to pay this bill so that I don't get put out. All these different things that we experience. And we take on this, like I said, this whole mask up, this whole facade, like everything is good, and it's not. And it's okay to say, I'm not okay, but I want to get back to being okay. Okay.
Hello. Okay. So now you added another acronym. Sorry, y'all, my allergies are acting up. So listen, you said you can't heal if you don't deal. And now I'm gonna add to that, but you got to keep it real, right?
You got to keep it real.
We got a rap song at the end, right?
Keep it real. Yeah.
Right. But here's the thing that's so interesting, y'all, is that we put on, like you said, these masks, this facade, like everything is okay. So it's like, how do we get past the mask? How do we fight past perception and wanting to be in the in crowd and wanting to be liked and all the things that would keep us in the shoulds instead of dealing with what's real?
And I hate to say it like this, but it's almost like you have to put on this, I don't give a care. I got to take care of myself. I don't care what anybody thinks about what's going on with me, because only the person that knows what's going on really with me is me.
Yeah.
And so sometimes we have to just shut down social media, because social media will have you all balled up and just in a tizzy trying to keep up with everybody that's on social media. And I say this all the time. There are so many people. I say this to young folks all the time specifically. I tell them that everything that you see on social media, on TV, or whatever the situation may be, is not necessarily all the truth. You can rent everything. You can rent a house, you can rent a car, you can rent a boat, you can rent a wardrobe, you can rent all these things to make it look as if you're living this lavish lifestyle. But in reality, there may be individuals who are living from paycheck to paycheck, like so many of us in America are living. Right. So when you again begin to just say, you know what, I could care less about who thinks what about me. I know I think enough of myself to love myself, to care for myself. I'm myself's best friend. So if I'm going to give you some advice on how to take care of you, Nicole, because you're my girl and I love you, I've got to take care of Portia first. And I just got to release. It doesn't matter what anybody thinks. I know what I need. It's between me and God. God, help me. You said, if in all of my ways I acknowledge you, you're going to direct my path. So, God, I need some help.
Ooh, come on, girls.
That nobody else can give me but you.
Don't make me start running around in here. So listen, the thing that's so interesting is, when I want to treat myself, I'm going to go to the finest dining restaurant and only eat the best steak or the best when I'm having a cheat meal or the best salmon or the best. But why don't we feed ourselves mentally in the same way? If I'm
Yes.
going to spend all this money at a restaurant on the $100 to $300 bottle of wine, if I'm really balling that day, if I feel like a baller that day, right? And I do that, y'all. I treat myself. Why don't I also invest in the same way on making sure that I inside
Mhm,
mentally
mhm,
feel
mhm.
are
Yes.
in alignment?
Mhm,
I think
mhm.
I think we just have it so wrong as a country because so many of us don't focus on. Listen, when I started going through menopause, baby, the trainer I was working, I loved her, but it wasn't working because she didn't understand my menopause body. So this new trainer, who
Mhm.
I don't really like him now, I'm gonna be honest, because he has me doing stuff I don't like, but I like I like the result, right?
Yes,
But the
yes.
point is, if I want something bad enough, I'm gonna invest in it.
That's
So,
right.
how do we shift our mindset to begin to understand the importance of investing in our mental health?
That is so important because you're absolutely right. We take time out and spend money on things we don't get a return on our investment. So if you think about when you are reading that book or you're taking that class, there's going to be a return on your investment.
Yeah.
Okay. When you take time out to invest in your emotional well being, meaning having a counselor, having a therapist, you're going to receive a return on that investment because you're going to be able to look at yourself in a different way. You're going to be
Yeah.
able to see a different person when you're looking in the mirror. You're going to be able to say very clearly, sister in the mirror, what do I see? And as opposed to saying, I see a broke down sister that's depressed staring back at me, you'll be able to come back and just say, sister in the mirror, what do you see? I see a beautiful, bold, confident, competent sister that's staring back at me, that is caring for herself, that loves herself. So you'll be
But
able to
what
have different conversations with yourself about yourself
but what
when you
happens when
invest.
you don't have the energy or you don't have the self-worth to even see yourself in that way? What happens
Yeah.
when you're on the edge of, dare I say, suicide? And I'm saying this because
Mhm.
somebody out there listening might need
Yeah.
this message right
Mhm.
now because you don't see your worth. You don't see how you can. And here's the
Mhm.
thing I want you to know. I know you have some grief cards that can help with this as well. So
Mhm.
pour into, if you could give her 2 or 3 things that she could do, if you want to go into talking about your grief cards, if you want to do both,
Yeah.
because these, listen, she created these cards as a tool, you guys, to help.
Mhm.
So tell that
Yes.
woman that is out there that's listening, that is on the edge
Mhm.
and feels like she can't make it.
Well, let me first of all say you have everything in you to make it, even if it's just something the side of a mustard seed. You've got that faith. Go and find that person, that therapist that will be able to hold your hand and guide you. And even if it means you've got to talk to that person every single day, there are groups that are out there. National Association of Mental Institutions, I do believe it's NAMI.
Mhm.
And you can go to that organization and they specialize in helping people deal with suicidal thoughts. Here in the Detroit area, we have an organization called Detroit Wayne Integrated Health Network. And all they do is specialize with individuals who are substance abusers, who are also thinking or have attempted suicide. There
Yeah.
are organizations that are everywhere. Call if you need to make that call, that 911 call, if you need to make that 211 call, whatever it is that you need to do in order to get help. So go outside and just scream and just say, I need help. Go to your local hospital, go to the emergency department, because if it's a level 1 hospital, they have a crisis center. And you can just say, this is what I've been thinking. This is what I've been contemplating. And I need someone to be able to talk to be able to talk me off of this cliff.
Yeah.
And if you go to your local church, and if your local churches are doing what they need to do, then they need to be able to have a organization or department that deals with the health ministry. And you can talk to
Hmm.
someone there, or being able to, if you're on speed dial, depending on how large or how small your church is, you should be able to call your pastor and just say, I need some help. Because you need a little bit more than just prayer. They will be able to give you some resources that you need. But speaking of the cards that you mentioned, these are the healing cards. And let me tell you a little bit of backstory about how this all came to be. My
And
son is ill.
before you start going in, because she's gonna go into a whole story, and I don't want to forget this. Listen, those of you, sorry, my allergies are acting up, y'all. So those of you that are watching on YouTube, you see me scratching my nose, and I feel like my mother's looking at me. So I'm sorry, but my nose is itching. So listen, when I was at rock bottom,
Hmm.
and I
Hmm.
knew I needed a counselor, and I lived in a city where I didn't know anybody, I went to Psychology Today.
Hmm.
And what you can do when you go to Psychology Today, it has a list of mental health professionals. It doesn't have to be a
Hmm.
psychiatrist. It could be a licensed clinical something or other. But what I
Hmm.
did was I read through, I looked, and I'm gonna be honest with you, I wanted a black woman. Why? Because I'm a black woman. I want to talk to somebody that looks like me. And
Mhm.
I found a Black woman in the
Mhm.
area, and then I read her bio. Then I went on
Yes.
her website. So I'm
Mhm.
sharing that with you because if your church doesn't know, or maybe they do and they give you the list and it doesn't feel like it works, or you go to the hospital and that doesn't feel like it works, and maybe you have some grief and mental health resources at your job and that's not working, go on
Mhm.
Psychology Today and look
Mhm.
at
Good.
all the resources that are available to you in your backyard.
Yes. And thank you so much for bringing that up, because it's so easy now to even get an appointment, because it used to be a time where everything was face to face. But the good thing that came out of COVID was is that you don't necessarily have to be in that person's office. You can do Zoom, you can do FaceTime, whatever it is that you need to do in order to get in front of that person who can guide you, who can encourage you, who can help you along your healing journey.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
So
okay.
now
So sorry, I interrupted you. So go ahead. Healing
no, that's
cards. Go
okay. So the healing cards are
ahead.
specifically developed for those who have lost a loved one. So 4 years ago, my son was murdered on the streets of Atlanta, and God spoke to me and he says, I'm going to get the glory out of this. And so since then, I have been able to create a healing card deck, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that. I started writing for the Michigan Chronicle every month on grief. I started the Portia Lockett Foundation, where we help you heal, offer you hope, and hold your heart as you're going through any type of grieving journey. And so we have programs where we have, individuals sharing their testimonies about whatever it is that they're experiencing as it pertains to grief. And then we have mental health experts to come in and ministers to come in. And there's about 200 people in this room, and we're all grieving together. But at the same time, we're growing together. So we have a permission series. We're giving you permission to grieve, permission to heal, permission to live and laugh, because sometimes we feel like I can't even laugh as I'm going through this grief. But laughter is some of the best medicine possible. Then permission to love again, because sometimes we forget how to love ourselves, because no longer in this relationship, that person is no longer here for me to love on. So let's start out by loving myself. Permission to move forward. So I started off here in this journey and I felt like I just couldn't give up. I was going to give up and I couldn't get up because I just didn't want to. I just didn't feel like I had the capacity in order to do that. So how do we move forward? And at the very end, permission to celebrate. How do I celebrate my accomplishment? That I went from the beginning phase of grief to now at this phase. And grief is a journey. It's not something that you're going to wake up and just, oh, I'm done, I'm healed. It's one of those, that space where you just have to just say, okay, now I can cope better, because I was able to accept the fact that there was some issues that I was dealing with, that I was grieving, and every situation is completely different. So on these cards, there's 52 cards. I suggest that people use one per week. You can do it as an individual, or you can do it with a group of individuals. Okay. So the first card you may pull up that may say simply something very simple that says this, because I don't know what to do now. I've got lost this person. This is a good day to handle the finances. Is there a safe deposit box that I need to go and look in to see what's in that box? Maybe it's that will of the person. Maybe it's some last instructions about some property that they have, but you don't know until you go to that P.O. box, right? Then there may be a day when you just say, okay, let me go to the bank. This person may have had several bank accounts and your name is on it, or you may not be on it. So you may discover that you have to go to probate court to handle that situation so you can get access to those funds. The other thing I always tell people to do is always keep one bank account open, because if you're in the middle of a year and it's tax season and that person has not received their money, or there may be some other money coming in from a refund from something else, if you don't have access to a bank account, it's going to be very challenging to get a hold of that money. So that's just one card. Another one may say, let's do something to honor that individual. So what do I mean by when I say honor? Doing something that actually represents the life that they led. So if they were a school teacher, you maybe want to consider going back into the school systems and reading once a month to a group of students, right? If that person was into, let's just say, crafts, maybe you can just volunteer and go into a senior citizens home and do crafts with some seniors. Maybe that person was into bike riding, right? And they have a lot of bikes. Maybe you want to create like a bike ride to honor that person, because that's something they did. Or you may want to start a scholarship, in their honor. There's so many different ways that you can honor. Plant a tree in a garden or in a park that says this tree is planted in honor of. Or if there's a new construction coming up in your area where you live in, maybe you can go to them and just say, I just want to buy a brick and just put my loved one's name on it, so that when people walk past, or they can see that this new establishment, this brick is part of this new construction, but I'm trying to honor my loved one. So
Yeah.
those are just a couple of things that you can do that's on the card. And then another one is simply just saying, today I need to do something that's new and refreshing, because sometimes when we are experiencing a depression, or we're experiencing anxiety, or we're just feeling like I don't know what else to do, and you just need to pick me up, take a trip to Home Goods. And as opposed to, having that whole black and white decor, in your place, maybe throw some color, some splash, change your hair. You're used to wearing your hair pulled back in a ponytail. Just let it down. Go to the hairdresser, maybe let it get longer, or, get it cut off a little bit. Just do something different. Change the lipstick that you're wearing. Whatever it is that's going to create some minor changes that will give you the spirit of, I feel a little pickup here.
Mhm.
Do things that make you happy and that bring you joy.
So good. And I love that really this work is in tribute to your son, and how, you were already doing
Yes.
some of this work, but the expansion that happened in your own grief.
Mhm.
So how did you even
Yeah.
find the courage to get over your own grief and at the same time celebrate your son in this work that you're doing?
Yeah. I mentioned that, God, he told me, he says, I'm going to get the glory out of this. And so I had no idea. I mean, I began writing. I always liked to writing letters to myself, but I started writing poetry, on a whole different level. Everything that I did just began to amplify 4 years ago. The work that I was doing is just like, I never thought about, creating a deck of healing cards. That was not on my radar. Writing for the
Right.
Michigan Chronicle, not on my radar. Starting my own podcast, the Grieving Journey podcast, not on my radar, going out and speaking, starting a foundation. So all these things just start happening. I'm just like, wow. He said, I'm honoring God and I'm honoring my son. In the meantime, helping so many other people. And so what I found for myself personally is the more I help others, the more
Mm.
I'm helping myself.
So good. So good. Well, thank you for showing us how to deal so we can heal, and how to keep it real. Thank you for because really at the end of the day, it allows you to be your whole self. So you're not leaving
Mhm,
any piece of yourself behind in this journey, so that
mhm,
you're not at 20% or
mhm.
30%. Listen, I want to, when I die and get to meet God face to face, I want him to say, girl, you did 100%. You use 100% of yourself to do
Yes.
the work I've called and created you to do. But when you're
Mhm.
not dealing with something, 100% of yourself doesn't come. So thank you for always being committed to be 100% of you, and then
Oh,
pouring that back into all of us so that we all can deal and heal.
absolutely. Absolutely. Because at the end of the day, we all want to make sure that we are God pleasers as opposed to man pleasers. But the benefit is, as long as you're pleasing God, you're going to please some other folks along the way.
Right.
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 Nicole, thank you so much, for allowing me to
Thank
be
you.
a part of the show. Just continue to do the work, continue to shine your light, because when you don't shine, somebody else is stuck in the dark.
Woo, come on, girl. I dropped the mic as she's leaving out. Thank you, girl. I appreciate you. So listen, I'll put in the show notes her healing cards. If you or a loved one is dealing with loss, these cards are a must for you. So Dr. Portia's left so many gems. So one, are you in the middle of a place where you're healing? Tell us, write in the notes. I want to hear from you where you are in your journey. If she gave you some aha moments, maybe you didn't even realize that you needed time to deal or heal, right? um, Please put it in the notes, because listen, we're here for you. And so I want to hear from you. Also, share. You don't know who in your community is dealing with grief right now, that's dealing with a loss, that this episode will make a phenomenal difference in their life. So, with that said, thank you for joining us for this episode. I'll see you soon. Bye, y'all.